Well, you know, I've made pains over the whole course of this entire series to establish that what I'm saying is essentially rational, and to kind of maintain that it's really not all that weird. For example, I've talked about University of Washington, not weird, etc., not weird. But now I I have to say that the conclusion I've come to, where I did not expect to come to, but where I have to accept I have come to, is weird. um, and the conclusion, here we have a radio in the sky here. The sky is full of radio waves. I can prove it by turning this radio on and tuning in all kinds of different music and talk and ideas and opinions. And I can prove it by going into the house and showing the Wi-Fi and showing, let's first say, for example, World of Warcraft. It's all coming through the Wi-Fi. That entire world on the laptop, the entire World of Warcraft world is transmitted via this Wi-Fi signal, which is a radio signal, just like this is a radio. It picks up a radio signal. So the idea that a vast, intricate, detailed world can be transmitted through the sky on an invisible radio wave is not a new or controversial idea. The new and controversial idea is that in a similar fashion to the radio waves being invisible but being full of information, we're saying, or I'm saying, or I should say we, because there's 4 of us now. Well, no, there's 3 of us. There's 3 of us saying it. There's 1 person listening. The only person listening is DJ Mondo, and he's a cyborg from the future. So there's 3 humans saying a similar thing, potentially even drawn from the same source. And the only person listening is a cyborg from the future named DJ Mondo. I'll link to his YouTube. You can judge for yourself. But the idea is fantastic. The idea is riveting. And the idea's time has come. The 3 people are me, Madame Blavatsky, and J. Hewitt Mackenzie. And it is quite possible that Madame Blavatsky is the source for J. Hewitt Mackenzie, because there are some similarities, and she is a theosophist, and he did not proclaim to be a theosophist, but his writings are very similar. So it could all source back just to Madame Blavatsky. And I didn't know that until yesterday. When I looked up, I was trying to find some corroboration of this idea that heaven is literally above us. Okay, so when you look up into the clear blue sky and you see the stars, let's say at night, when you see the stars at night, you're seeing all the way out of the Earth's atmosphere. And according to Madame Blavatsky and J. Hewitt Mackenzie, the spirit worlds are in between us and them. Us and the clear blue sky, or us and the stars in the sky. So between, when you look up at the stars in the night sky, according to J. Hewitt Mackenzie and Madame Blavatsky, you are looking through the spirit world, because the spirit world is invisible like a radio wave, but is an actual place. And to the inhabitants of the spirit world, it is as solid, if not more solid, than this, our own Earth. So they perceive it as real or more real than this. And they perceive everything we have, mountains, rivers, lakes, plus innumerable other things. And so in saying that the Van Allen belts are heaven, and in pointing out that the map published in 1916 in J. Hewitt Mackenzie's book Spirit Intercourse actually has precise measurements of the Van Allen belts, but he presents it as a map of the spirit spheres. I've really taken a left turn away from things that can be, rationally justified. The original premise of this whole series was the idea that a person talking about the near-death experience or visions of the spirit world, the person says, it's all in your head. And when somebody said that to me, I thought of the it as this vast world described by Swedenborg. And if it's all in your head, that takes his writings and turns it into physiology. So Swedenborg described this vast world in great detail over the course of probably 40 volumes. I'm not sure exactly how much he wrote, but it's a lot. And my original revelation was, if you agree with the person who says it's all in your head. So some people say it is the spirit world. It's another dimension. But if you want to be purely rational about it and say it's all in your head, well, then that means that all of Swedenborg's writings amount to physiology, which is curious because prior to having his spiritual experiences, he did original research in anatomy and physiology. Swedenborg was a prominent scientist of his day who had a religious upbringing and later in life had this religious experience and was able, according to him, to travel in heaven and hell. And the skeptic says, well, it was all in his head. But the informed person, me, says, well, it is this huge, vast, and meaningful and believable and visceral place. So if you're saying it is in his head, well, that turns all that writing into physiology. And that's a rational conclusion, which to me is very important and significant. But to me, it's not very weird. What I started saying yesterday and what I've pointed out recently, that J. Hewitt Mackenzie's 1916 Map of the Spirit Spheres is a precise description in real numbers, written on paper, a precise measurement of the Van Allen belts. So the Van Allen belts, there's an inner belt and an outer belt. The J. Hewitt Mackenzie spirit spheres, there's the first two, the astral realm, the first heaven, and then there's the other realm, the outer heaven, which is the real heaven, the second heaven. And I can show it to you on paper, printed in 1916, with numbers that precisely match the Van Allen belts. Now this is very, very strange and weird, and it reminds me of this other fact that you read in books about weirdness, weird coincidences. There was a book published before the Titanic sailed about a ship called the Titan. The ship called the Titan, and this was a fictional novel that was written. 3 screws it had, which means 3 propellers, and it was a perfect description of the Titanic a year before the Titanic sailed, and the thing sank, right? And this is, you can read about this in different books about weird things, and I have a copy of this book. It was reprinted after the Titanic sank. The book was reprinted, so the copy I have was, I think, from 1920. But it was originally published before the Titanic sank. And so this coincidence about J. Hewitt Mackenzie having precise measurements of the Van Allen belts fits under that category like the Titanic book. But the implications are far more vast, because what we have now is a new realm to explore. We have a new realm to explore, and we can go up there. And so I'm repeating it. I got it off of J. Hewitt Mackenzie. J. Hewitt Mackenzie may very well have gotten it off Madame Blavatsky. Madame Blavatsky was certainly a reader of Swedenborg, and a lot of, well, I'll just stop there. But I want to say that the only person hearing this right now is a cyborg from the future named DJ Mondo, and you can check out his YouTube page. I'll leave a link in the description. All right, thanks. See ya.